Hello. It's a Thursday as I'm recording this, and on this day we have a kind of tradition here of Poetry Thursday where we read a poem. Today I'm going to do something slightly different. I'm going to recommend a book and a person who is a great guide into understanding and enjoying poetry, and even beyond that to writing, and that is Edward Hirsch. This is a great book he has written. How to read a poem and fall in love with poetry. It's fantastic. He has lots of different excerpts and he talks about world poetry as well. So if you feel you've got to know poets that are American or UK better, but you've no clue about poets in Greece or in Western Europe or something like that, then this guy's going to help you with that. He writes beautifully about poetry and about how to understand it, and I have benefited from looking for various chats, talks, lectures by him, interviews on YouTube. I warmly recommend Edward Hirsch, Hirsch. This is a picture of him quite young. I'm going to read you a couple of little excerpts just to let you get the feel for the way he describes and how he's opening doors to understanding, but also writing poetically, because he's also a poet in his own right, and how beautiful the language is. I'm going to read a short paragraph from the start and one from near the end of the book. Page 4. In the beginning is the relation. The message in the bottle is a lyric poem, and thus a special kind of communique. It speaks out of a solitude to a solitude. It begins and ends in silence. We are not in truth conversing by the side of the road. Rather, something has been written. Something is being read. Language has become strange in this urgent and oddly self-conscious way of speaking across time. The poem has been silently en route, sometimes for centuries, and now it has signalled me precisely because I am willing to call upon and listen to it. Reading poetry is an act of reciprocity, and one of the great tasks of the lyric is to bring us into right relationship to each other. The relationship between writer and reader is by definition removed and mediated through a text, a body of words. It is a particular kind of exchange between two people not physically present to each other. The lyric poem is a highly concentrated and passionate form of communication between strangers, an immediate, intense and unsettling form of literary discourse. Reading poetry is a way of connecting, through the medium of language, more deeply with yourself, even as you connect more deeply with another. The poem delivers on our spiritual lives precisely because it simultaneously gives us the gift of intimacy and interiority, privacy and participation. So he's talking about the relationship, the fact that a poem is a message going between people who may not meet, but there's something about it. The other section I want to read is on page 262, and this book has got, let me see how many, yeah, that's pretty close to the end actually. It's just, it's 3 pages from the end. And then there's a glossary of poetry, and then there's a lot of recommended reading, breaking down poetry by various countries. And then there's an index as well, so it's really well supplied with reference tools to help you use it well. But page 262 is talking about Pablo Neruda, a famous poet from South America, and he's talking about something that happened to him when he was very small as a child. It's this amazing little encounter that just became key to him as poetry. Here we go. Here's a story about the essential gift of poetry. In an essay called Childhood and Poetry, Pablo Neruda links an odd event from his boyhood to the affirmative impulses of lyric poetry itself. Neruda grew up in Temuco, a far outpost in southern Chile. He remembers playing in the backyard behind the family house and suddenly discovering a hole in a fence board. And this is what he writes. I looked through the hole and saw a landscape like that behind our house, uncared for and wild. I moved back a few steps because I sensed vaguely that something was about to happen. All of a sudden, a hand appeared, a tiny hand of a boy about my own age. By the time I came close again, the hand was gone, and in its place there was a marvellous white sheep. The sheep's wool was faded, its wheels had escaped. All of this only made it more authentic. I had never seen such a wonderful sheep. I looked back through the hole, but the boy had disappeared. I went into the house and brought out a treasure of my own, a pine cone, opened, full of odour and resin, which I adored. I set it down in the same spot and went off with the sheep. I never saw either the hand or the boy again. ... So Hirsch continues. Neruda carefully goes on to link this episode to the origin of his poetry, to the humane impulses of the lyric. To feel the love of people whom we love is a fire that feeds our life, he says. And we're back to Neruda. But to feel the affection that comes from those whom we do not know, from those unknown to us, who are watching over our sleep and solitude, over our dangers and our weaknesses, that is something still greater and more beautiful, because it widens out the boundaries of our being and unites all living things. That exchange brought home to me for the first time a precious idea that all of humanity is somehow together. ... It won't surprise you then that I attempted to give something resiny, earth-like and fragrant in exchange for human brotherhood. So those are bookending the start and the end of the book. And I just recommend it warmly to you how to read a poem and fall in love with poetry. You're going to find lots of poets in it, and you're going to find a warm guide, an understanding Edward Hirsch, who opens out things to you without being overwhelming or over-intellectual, and yet it's deep, and it will make you want to read lots of poets and introduce you to many that are new to you. So have a nice Thursday or whatever day you're watching this on, and bye for now.